You're listening to Tassie Encounters Moments on Faith FM, and we're coming to you from Tasmania, right across Australia. Each weekday at 9 a.m, you can hear what the Bible says about past, current and future events. You can learn how to study the Bible more effectively. You can get to know who God is, why we're here and where we're going. And you can experience personal encounters with Jesus. I'm your host, Jason Cook, and Nick Kross is back in the studio with us today, continuing our topic of this week, the journey of adolescence. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks, Jason. Good to be here.
Now, this week we've been talking about the journey of adolescence. We've looked at some big questions, things like, who am I? What's my purpose? Where do I belong? That sort of thing. We've unpacked this idea of individuation, which was a new word for me. But I guess that's the concept of how do I become an individual, a unique individual?
That's it.
Is that what you'd say?
How do I become my own person?
My own person, yeah. And that's changed over the years in terms of, it used to take about a year and a half from puberty to adulthood, and now it's about 12 years.
It can stretch right out depending on the family, of course, but yeah, certainly.
Then we looked at these multiple identities, different candles in different scenarios, and how we ideally want a young person to come to this sense of a single, solid identity. So I guess they're not blown in the wind.
That's right.
And they have that resilience as well. And today we're going to be looking at spheres of influence. I guess we touched on that a little bit yesterday, but you're going to unpack that a little bit more today.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. It's great to be back, and I do want to talk just about a couple of different people who've done a lot of research in this area. One of them is a man named Yuri Bronfenbrenner, who researched children, and he basically established 4 levels or 4 tiers of influence with young people that are very significant and can impact their life. And the first and most important significant level of influence for any young person is loving parents. Mm-hmm. If a young child is growing up in a home where both parents are available and present, that's the best a young person's going to get. And those parents who love on them, believe in them, affirm them, and give them opportunities to grow and to experience life in a loving, safe context, that's the best a young person can have. If they don't have that, then the next best level of support, next tier of support, is non-parental, committed adults and peers. And this can be when a young person's growing up, say, in a context of a broken home where maybe an auntie's looking after them. There's a lot of children being raised now by grandparents. The parents have signed off. There are blended homes today where, there's lots of different models of family today. But if they've got people around them who love them and are committed to them, whether it's a soccer coach, whether it's school teachers, whether it's church people, whether it is grandparents, aunties, uncles, those people are still very significant figures. There's a lot of research being done now on grandparents and the role that they play on children and grandchildren. A very significant role model and reference point for a young person, good quality grandparents.
And of course, not every child grows up with the privilege of having a mother and a father through different circumstances. But you hear of this often, don't you, that this person has become a significant father role or, some substantial role that they don't have to be the biological parent to do that. That's
correct. And those people play a very significant role as long as a young person has people around them who they believe have got their best interests at heart. That's very significant. If they don't have that second tier of support, the third tier of support is non-parental, non-committed adults and peers. And that's maybe a teacher who occasionally says hi to a student at school, or a soccer coach who takes a casual interest in them, or it could be an uncle who rings them up every couple of months, or a grandparent, or a father or mother who rings them up from New Zealand to see how they're going, whatever. But not, you wouldn't call it support. You would call it spasmodic. If they don't have that level of support, they are basically left to the exposure of the broader media and ecology. And that is basically movies, music, internet, gaming, social media, YouTube. What's happening is in their world, what's happening at school, what's happening in their local town, basically just whatever they see. And this is where certain young people can watch a violent movie, but it doesn't impact them the same way it would for others, because they know that they're a loving person. They've been raised by loving parents and loving families, and they're not going to go out and behave in an irrational manner just because they've seen a movie that might have been violent. Whereas another person can watch that same movie and will go out and start acting out what they saw on that movie, because they don't really have the checks and balances in place. And that's very sad. So we want to try and make sure that we build in as many of those tiers of support for every young person as we possibly can. The second person I want to talk about is John Bowlby, who became a very famous psychologist in America, and he coined the term primary attachment figures, and that came from his home life as well. When he was growing up, he had a nanny that tutored him and looked after him right through until he was 18, and when his mother passed away, he didn't really feel that close to her, but when his father stopped employing the tutor, that just about killed him, because that woman had become like a mother to him. He went to uni, he studied psychology because he was asking serious questions, and he did research, and he realized that for most young people, the person who does the most heavy lifting in a child's life is the mother. The role of the mother is key, critical, so important. The role of the father is critical as well, but not as important as the mother. The mother is the one who's there every day, dropping them at school, picking them up from school, making sure they're dressed properly, making sure they get to their orthodontist appointments, making sure they're there for music lessons, parent-teacher interviews. They're just doing all these different things that somebody needs to do for a child. And the more love and care and emotional support a young child gets, they will look out at the world and they'll say, wow, this world's a great place. I can't wait to meet everybody else. But if that child is not treated well at home, then that child grows up in a defensive position where they're timid and they're looking out at the world as who's going to hurt me next. And that's not a good thing. As they go into adolescence, and there are 3 stages of adolescence, early, mid and late, when they reach their early teens and they start to head into adolescence, they start to push the parents away, as I mentioned before, and they start to discover who they are. Early adolescence is sort of 11 to 12 to 14 to 15. Mid-adolescence is 14 to 15 to 19 to 20. And then late adolescence is sort of the early 20s. But what happens as they go into that time of life, particularly when they hit their mid-teens, from 14 through to 19, that's when a young person is starting to experiment. That's where their friends are offering to take them to parties, to take them to places where they've never been before, and are offering them substances and things they've never had before, offering them experiences they've never had before. And it can become a very tough time for a young person to try and hang in there with what they've been raised to believe as a child. And at this point in time, the role of the father is critical, because every young boy is looking at his dad, if he can find him, and saying, what does it mean to be a man? So if his father is a solid, responsible adult male who is loving his wife, being respectful to his wife, speaking to her tenderly and letting her have respect in the home, if he's talking to his children with respect and telling his daughter, you're a princess, you're beautiful, I love you, you can reach for the stars, and his son, you've got what it takes, you're a great young warrior, you're going to make it in life. If the father speaks like that to his children, that boy is going to say that's what it means to be a man. And the young girl is looking at her father to say, what sort of man should I marry? And if that father is loving to her, treating her with respect, giving her dignity, letting her, experience life to the best that she can be, that's the kind of man she will marry. If the father is abusive or vacant or in another country or hurtful, then that boy is looking up and saying, well, that's what it means to be a man. And the girl
they'll
will
look
up
at somebody else, or they'll look at their own father and say, he's not here.
Well, that's right. They could do that. They can find somebody else they can look to that's more positive. But often when it comes to abusive situations,
or more negative
it's
as well.
Generational.
Yeah.
They'll pass on that generation, and so a girl will end up marrying somebody who ends up being abusive, which is not good. So we want to see them having that support network. We call it the tightrope of adolescence, and we need to create a safety net for our children and our adolescents when they're going through this time. It's a tough time for families. It's a tough time for faith communities, because often our teenagers will start acting in ways which are not approved by the church or by the community. And what we need to be careful of is that we don't ostracize a teenager when they get to that critical point in their adolescent journey. The easiest option is to just push them away silently and just let them go. The more valuable option is to say to that young person, hey, Johnny, I know that things aren't really making a lot of sense for you at the moment, but I want you to know that if you're in trouble in town on Friday night or Saturday night, you give me a call, I'll come and pick you up. If you've got no money or if you've got nowhere to get home, you just talk to me, I'll come and get you. And that lets them know there's people out there who still care for them. That's critical. And the good news is that once they get through those mid-adolescent times, they hit their late adolescence, they start coming back home again. They return to the family, they return to their mum and dad, and they start saying, wow, you parents are actually really intelligent. In their mid-adolescence, they think they know everything, and they don't think their parents know anything. But all of a sudden, they start to realise in their 20s, actually, you guys are really together. You actually got a lot of good things going for you. And they start having lovely conversations. But it's different. It's no longer parent-child. It's more friend to friend.
Adult to adult.
Adult to adult. And we must let that happen. That's what we want for our young people.
I've got one follow-up question for something that you talked about in the middle there. A lot of modern families are different to, I guess, traditional family models. You're mentioning the mother is often the primary attachment particularly in the younger years. How do we deal with that in modern families where you've got two parents working? Perhaps it's not the mother who spends most of the time with the children.
So it's whoever's at home, whoever is giving that primary guidance, setting those primary disciplines, setting those primary balances and boundaries. That is the person they're going to attach themselves to.
Yeah.
Primary attachment, every child will attach themselves to somebody.
I guess ideally you want a certain level of attachment with both parents in the ideal family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of today's discussion. We've got one more topic that we're going to be wrapping this up this week. It's the power of relationship. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. But all week we've been asking you this question: how are you nurturing and encouraging a young person? Or perhaps if you are a young person, how are you learning from or connecting with an older person as a mentor? Have a think about that. If you've got some ideas, text us in on 0488 880 891.
This program is made possible by the support of Adventist World Radio.
Our book offer for this week is Hope for Today's Families by Willie and Elaine Oliver. There is hope for you and your family. We live in challenging times. Our lives are saturated by information, activities, and senseless expectations. The stresses of modern life make healthy relationships more difficult to achieve and sustain. Couples and children live under the same roof but communicate poorly at best. Many want the stability of a strong family life but don't know how to attain it. This small book can help. Its ideas and solutions come from ancient wisdom, but are as relevant as today's news. We encourage you to text in this code, TEM, that's Tassie Encounters Moments, 2121, TEM21. Text that into 0488 880 891 to receive your free copy of this book today. As we go out today, this is Rob and Beth with Spears and Spades. And do join us tomorrow as we talk about the power of relationship in a bit more detail. Thank you for joining us. May you encounter Jesus more today.
Ooh, come and take us home. Ooh, the world is getting old. Talking about climate change and wars only fought for gains that burn. But ooh, it's a wonderful world. Yes, ooh, it's a beautiful world. Just need deliverance, the end of all evil, and love to grow. This is deliverance, deliverance. This is your name. Worshipped by nations, gathered for praise. Swords into plowing tools, spears into spades. This is deliverance someday. Worshipped by nations, gathered for praise. Swords into plowing tools, spears into spades. This is deliverance someday. Light of the world, shine down. Deliverance, this is your name. Worshipped by nations, gathered for praise. Swords into plowing tools, spears into spades. This is deliverance someday.
This program has been made possible by the support of Adventist World Radio.